Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Ladies and gentlemen, our country, the Bahamas, is still poised to be a super wealthy country in a matter of months. And I continue to say that because I mean that, and I'm looking forward to that, and I can't wait to get my carbon credits. Our world is threatened by global warming, and if the necessary actions to alleviate the carbon footprint is not engaged, a vast area of the world as we know it will become submerged forever. Particularly the low-lying areas such as our lovely Bahamas. So you see, dear listener, it's not a matter of if we will protect against this carbon blockage, but how soon we must accomplish net zero carbon emissions. Tonight, I am joined by a great maritime mind. A mind that should be deemed a hero when it comes to women in maritime. This lady smashed the proverbial glass ceiling by becoming the first Bahamian female to sail worldwide as an officer on board international Solus ships. A well-fitting co-host for this maritime show. And she will be officially introduced momentarily. Tonight we have a litany of examples of what entities are doing to reduce their carbon footprints on the road to attaining net zero carbon emissions by the year 2050. In that vein, our topics include, we get through a little local one today. Nearly 300 Haitian migrants repatriated. And this happened, I think today, if not yesterday. So they were repatriated yesterday morning, actually. That's according to the Assistant Director of Immigration, Mr. Rudolph Ferguson. Will this type of stuff ever stop? It will if we simply apply the labor laws and not allow them to work here illegally. Will this stuff ever stop? It will. If we simply apply the Ministry of Works laws and not allow shanty towns in our country. Of course, in this case, they were handed over to us by the U.S. Coast Guard. So we now have to address whether we should be taking them from U.S. authorities if they were obviously headed to Florida. So the U.S. Coast Guard, according to reports, came across this large Haitian migrant ship with almost 300 Haitians. And they were in the Kisal area. You know where the Kisal Banks is? Could we imagine? The Kisal Banks? The Kisal Banks is between Andros, Cuba, and Florida. South Florida, you mean down all the way down to Key West area, eh? So if a Haitian migrant vessel is found in the Kisal area, anywhere, Dog Rocks, Kisal itself, what we call double-headed short rocks, Anguilla Key, you name the rock or key in the area of Kisal, that is, you know where that is? That is so far from any Bahamian port. The closest Bahamian port to Kisal, and I can tell you this, I've been to Kisal patrolling over and over again, would be Bimini. So if they're in Kisal, you think you're trying to get to Bimini? If a Haitian migrant boat go to Bimini, what can happen? They all get catch. Where they can go if they get to Bimini? They can't get no shanty down to move their way through and not be detected. They will be caught right away. So it suggests to me And if you got that kind of impression about how migrant vessels move along to get into the Bahamas, and then the ports they come into is Abaco, Grand Bahama is difficult, but they could come to Grand Bahama, and possibly, because you know Grand Bahama, we ain't got too much shanty downs. We don't allow too much of that up in Freeport area, eh? So Abaco, sometimes they go around to Eleuthera and wind their way in somehow. They ain't full of them fouled islands. Because the fouled islands, you can't really mesh your way in that readily, because everybody know everybody, and if you're in from there, they can know right away, and the police can hold you hostage. So Andros, forget it. Forget Andros. Red Bay is probably just as close as Bimini, but how you can get in Red Bay and not be detected? So, in my view, this Haitian vessel with almost 300 migrants, women, men, children. You remember we talked about this the other day when they were threatening to harm the children of Coast Guard coming in closer? This is the boat we're talking about. We had them now for a couple of weeks, if not months. And we repatriated them this morning. Because, or was it yesterday morning? One morning, either today or yesterday. Because we had them now, and we can't just release them in Nassau or the Bahamas. So in this case, I think we share an obligation to repatriate these people. But these people wouldn't even be trying to come to the Bahamas if they're not going to be able to work and if they're not going to be able to live in shanty towns. So my view is, Mr. Government, let's get our act together with ensuring that these people are not working illegally. I'm not only talking about Haitian migrants. Migrants, I'm talking about any citizen outside of Bahamians working illegally. We need to make that difficult to do. And secondly, we don't want the shanty town. Once we stamp the two of them out, you will watch the migrants that don't have the authority leave our country. We wouldn't even put them on a plane and repatriate them, because why they could be if they can't work? If they can't live in shanty town, they don't want to be here. They'd rather be in Florida or Georgia or going west to Texas. Man, they don't want to be here no more. So we wouldn't have to worry about them trying to come here no more. And that's the key. Trying to come here. So, Mr. Government, I hear you when you say you repatriated them. But if you want to do a real repatriation exercise, we got over 100,000 of them we could repatriate. But what good is that going to do to us when 100,000 plus could be coming right back? We need to make sure they have no desire to come to our country. Just like they have zero desire to migrate to Jamaica. Zero desire to migrate to Cuba. So let's why we have to be so desirable? Come on, people. Let's talk to our government. We got to fix this problem. And the best way to fix this problem is to ensure that it's very difficult for them to get a job without a work permit. Because plenty of them working without work permit. I could tell you, and I'm not only talking about Asians. And it's very difficult for them to smuggle their way into shanty towns until they learn enough English to come out and start moving through, eh? That's where we need to go with that. Boy, getting on along with this topic, say. We got another topic. We can talk about the first grain methanol fueled box ship. It started its maiden voyage on July 17th. How much days ago that was? That's about a week ago, eh? So just over a week ago, they had this ship that is fueled of methanol. Methanol burns far less carbon than your regular bunker C engines would burn. So we on the road to zero carbon emissions. And this is what they're starting to do. They're starting to make ships with engines in them that do not put out hardly any carbon emission. Why? Because they have to pay for carbon emission that they emit and don't capture over a period of time. So you could expect, my dear friend, the cost of shipping is going to go rather high. Because if ships have to pay more money for this type of fuel that ain't readily available, and they have to do it, it's going to be a cost. Now, eventually it may die off again because they can find ways to make all these low carbon fuel available. The ammonia is almost taking over everything because they realize that ammonia really don't want to put on no carbon. And their offset ain't going to be high at all. But how much ammonia could you really get when you're talking about fueling up a ship? And of course, they can go a little slower and all that. So everything is going to cost us more money. But guess what? We have to save the world. And they have another topic here with the environmentalists in Europe. Excuse me. They say that Fuel EU, now they have this project called Fuel EU. In other words, they want to convert all ships to using lower carbon type fuel by a certain amount of time. But they say that's still going so slow. It's going too slow if they're trying to meet zero carbon emissions by 2050. That's only 27 years from here. 26 years from here now, eh? Oh, okay, next year make 26. 27 years from now, they want all those ships to hardly be emitting any carbon. And the little bit that they emit, they got to offset somehow. That's where this world is going. So when I tell you the Bahamas is on the way to richness, we're a big, huge carbon sink, and we're going to be really rich. And those of you who don't want your share, find me and let me have it. I can tell you that happen. You ain't going to believe me. Just say I can have your share and let me know so I can make sure it happens sooner. Now, that's what the environmentalists say in Europe. They say, we're moving too slow on this thing, man. These ships, we need to have a broader climate goal when you look at the Paris Agreement on global warming. And then they got a port right in the U.S., the port of Tacoma. I guess my guest can tell me in a minute where Tacoma is, boy. I have an idea. Anyway, the port of Tacoma. They're going to speed up the net zero greenhouse gas deadline. In other words, that deadline to 2050, they can speed that up. They can say, no, we ain't going 2050. We want y'all to be net zero by 2040. You know when 2040 is? That's 17 years from now. They're not going to allow any ship in their port. And that's a big port up in the USA. They're not going to allow you in unless you can accomplish net zero with your carbon. In other words, the amount of carbon you put in there, you got to show them where that carbon was offset by either paying the Bahamas for their carbon sinks or paying into the United Nations. And that's how this thing will work. So we can't duck it. They have to come to us. Either the United Nations under this fund that they put that $4 trillion in is going to pay it to us because we're absorbing it on the air all the time, or the ships themselves. But ships only contribute 3%. Eh? Cars contribute 28%. So it ain't only ships. You got places like BPL. You know how much carbon they emitting into there? They have to get offset too because they're part of the world. And if they don't get the offset, they get to pay somebody. They're not going to be able to get away with it. And we are also going to have to try and convert the type engine and fuel they use. So we know they've been getting away forever because certain things in place and they want that fossil fuel to keep coming for us to pay because they're making big bucks off that and all the rest of that. But you know what? They ain't gonna have no choice real soon. Plus we gonna have plenty money. So life could be like, boy, look here, I wish I could have 3 Bahamian passports so I could get 3 times what this country got to pay out from those carbon credits that we going to be getting from our carbon sink, eh? So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the hustle what we're going to be dealing with today. But as I said to you, I am being joined by a co-host. I ain't no guess. You don't guess. This young lady done been on this show a couple times. So, I present you tonight a well-fitting co-host for this Maritime show. Joining me tonight is none other than my very own daughter. You all know who that is. A shipping operator expert currently residing in San Antonio, Texas. the one and only Captain Misty LaShawn Bain. Misty, welcome to Maritime Matters.
Thank you. Good evening. My full government name.
Your full government name, your Maggie. Yeah, so Misty, we talking about carbon tonight. We're not talking about carbon as in carbon just being around. We're talking about carbon where the Bahamas is set to benefit and gain billions on top of billions. From the last estimate that we got from a University of Michigan that came here and did a study, they are suggesting that based on the carbon sink that the Bahamas have with all our seagrasses and all of our mangroves, based on the amount of carbon we take out of the air on an hourly basis, we are going to be granted from the United Nations by all those countries over $150 billion every year. Billion with a B.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So, well, you live in Texas now. You live in San Antonio. So we people like you, I know if we can give no credits to, because
I still have my Bahamian passport.
Oh, you still a Bahamian? Boy, don't let that go, because I can tell you that could be something else. So, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome the great Misty here with me tonight. And as you notice, we have already scratched on some of the surfaces we're going to uncover. So this time I'd like to contribute to our sponsors our show on a weekly basis, definitely tonight. And we're talking about one-on-one pharmacy, and we know the deal on them. My good little cousin Shantia, and a wonderful, lovely team of Heber and Clan workers, and Joy, who does all the what you call that thing, technical set in the back, just put your stuff together. They got a good crew. You can walk in one-on-one pharmacy. They're on East Street South, Charles Sanders Highway, and they will take good care of you. And then we got, of course, the new one in Freeport with my good cousin Stephanie. Gotta keep the handle on. Stephanie up there having fun, boy, but she working hard. That is known as Island Pharmacy, is it? Island something. Island Care Pharmacy. Island Care. Shanti, don't beat me. Shanti, don't beat me up, please. You know you're my girl. So Island Care in Freeport, one-on-one pharmacy, 2 locations in Nassau. We also sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection. That's BMC. We the maritime port security people. Anything you need in maritime security, from assessments and plans to audits, training, consultancy, you name it, we can do it for you. So, to the listening audience, I am accompanied tonight by, of course, one of our greatest producers around this town. Everybody know Craig, man. With me in the studio tonight, the man of the hour, the man with all the power. He is fully able, quite capable, Mr. Craig Gibson. Yes, and he gives that salute to me and Misty. Girl, Misty, you see that salute? Sure. I tell you that boy, he look like he in the defense force, eh? Yeah, the police can't salute like that. Expert saluter. That's right. So we got the good producer Craig Gibson, and people, you're listening to our show, Maritime Matters. We talk maritime. We air every week, every Tuesday at 19:30. That's 7:30 p.m. for those who still don't know. Here on Love 97 FM. The purpose of our show is to highlight persons that made significant contributions to the maritime in the Bahamas and to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities to the maritime sector. We also cover current maritime issues from a domestic perspective and from international maritime feeds. Halfway through our show, we will open the phone lines. Well, we can open it right away because we're in a big discussion tonight. You want to join this discussion? Come early. The number 326-8255. I say again, a number to reach us. If you want to reach us tonight in on all this money this country can be paying us for these carbon credits, well, the world could be paying our country, and our country belong by us. That's how I see it. So, boy, some of the money got to come to us. The number to call is 326-8255. Again, we are talking maritime, and you are listening to Maritime Matters. Before we get into our carbon credits and all that other good stuff that we're going to be discussing, I'd like to say that 2 straight weeks now, 2 Saturdays in a row. I've attended funerals and got another one. My good schoolmate Lillian Johnson just passed off, and all my good people leaving me. Saturday was my uncle Clyde Hebburn out of Freeport. You know, he's a great guy. I cannot overemphasize how good he was to this world, to me in particular, all of my family, all of his immediate family and in-laws. He was just off the chain. So sad we had to lose Clyde. But he obviously is going to be resting in peace. And the week before that, I went to a funeral of my good friend, Maritime. He was one of the best captains that this country will ever have seen. And I know, because I worked directly with him, I spoke to him, I watched what he did. His name is Bill Abalu Williams. Abalu Bill, we call him Captain Bill. Captain Bill, I think, from a local domestic perspective, drove probably the largest ship ever been through our waters, driven by a Bahamian. And the places he took, the Freeport feeder. He drove the Freeport feeder for about 2 years, 2 years plus. And the places where he would have taken that, the feeder was about, over 1,000 gross tons, around 1,600 gross tons, right? Our regular mail boats, none of them, hardly any of them goes over 500 tons. Nowadays, we're getting some bigger ones, but I don't think we got any up to 1,600 gross tons, except the big old Fiesta mail, which was sold and no longer here. But then guess what? We really didn't have a Bahamian qualified captain running the Fiesta mail. Yes, we had a captain, and we had an international qualified captain. And ain't nobody gonna tell me what's going on, because I know, right? But Bill Williams, Captain Bill Williams, my good friend, he would have been perhaps the one Bahamian to run a ship the size of that Freeport feeder, not only within the Bahamas, he went into the U.S., all kind of different ports. He could have towed it up. Could have been a bulk carrier, could have been a container carrier, and he did it all on that vessel. He had a one bow thruster and a slow turning engine, and guess what? He could have taken that ship anywhere that the regular ship goes. So hats off to Bill Williams. May his soul continue to rest in peace. And to Nancy, his good wife, I would have known Nancy from the time I worked at the Port Department as Deputy Director. She was in accounts, very good accountant, very good waker. She's now, I think, a civilian employee with the Royal Bahamas Police Force. And of course, they showed up in great numbers to support her. So Nancy must have made a good stance and statement in that police force as a civilian employee. And Nancy, I say to you, have my condolences all over again and again and again. You know, I know Bill Williams is a good man. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we move on our show, and before we get into the nits and grits of what we really want to get into those carbon credits, I just want to remind you, I think I better do it after the break. We're going to take our first break, and when we come back from our break, we're going to get into the opportunities this Bahamas hold for cruise itinerary voyages. So we'll be right back on Maritime Matters.
At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection. At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our show, Maritime Matters. As I mentioned to you before the break, when we return, we will be digging deep into why is Morgan's Bluff not being converted to receive cruise ships. And I say Morgan's Bluff because that's the lowest hanging fruit of the bunch. Morgan's Bluff has been used for water tankers, barges. It has a clearing depth of at least about 25-26 feet. So if you're going to dredge it, you'll only have to dredge it about 40 feet, eh? So we're already halfway there. Again, it is protected. It have a long wharf that can hold definitely at least one cruise ship, and if there was to extend it, it can hold 2 cruise ships. You put a turning basin in there, and you can use the sediments that you take out of the seabed and put it ashore to extend the dock. That's not going to be a big, huge cost compared to the returns you're going to get if you get 1 or 2 cruise ships calling on Morgan's Bluff on a daily basis, and you will have that. Because the cruise ship's looking for more places to go. Last week we talked about a cruise ship that strictly Bahamas and doing 2 trips a week. But it's going to its Coco Key, then it's coming to Nassau, and then it goes back to Port Everglades, or is it Cape Canaveral? One of those big ports up there. It's 3 huge ones. It doesn't matter which one. They got a home port too. And then the same day they come right back out, and then they come right back to their key and to Nassau, and they do that twice a week. And guess what? That's only 2 ports. Imagine if they throw a port like Morgan's Bluff in there, along with their key, along with Nassau, and they could do Freeport, and then we can look at other ports that we can make in this area, right? We could do Drakes and Landers. Send them further down in the Torrid Ocean. What's wrong with that? Okay, caller, I see you on the line. I'm going to be with you in 1 second. We're on Drakes and Landers now. And I guess the caller could tell us how we could do Drakes and Landers. Caller, good night to you. You're live on Maritime Matters.
Yes, good night, Captain Dean. And good night to your daughter.
Good night, Lady Veronique, and thank you for calling again. I didn't get you last week.
Bernice Johnson, the original. My phone has been hacked. That's one of the reasons sometimes I dropped out.
Oh, okay.
And I want to send condolences to your uncle and your wife and all those who have lost their ones. Also, retired Deputy Commissioner.
That's right.
Mason and Mother Mabel Mason lost a nephew, Mrs. Millicent's son, Kobe. Also, retired Assistant Commissioner Ashton Miller.
That is correct.
And Sergeant Emperor Mackenzie, and all those who I might miss. Oh, and dear Reverend Lloyd Smith, a man who speaks his mind and straightforward.
That's right.
A man, good. I want to send condolences out to his wife and all his family and the entire Baptist community. Okay, so that's what, and also divine salutations, I must say, to King Charles III and Queen of Consort.
Now, Ms. Veronique, before you get on to the prince and them, let me just, you forget somebody. You forgot the great Commissioner Paul Farquharson. Just died today. Yesterday.
I know, I'm so very bad. I was on earlier. For those who might not be listening, I sent out condolences, so I'm covering that. I'm just covering the tail end of it because sometimes, I get taken off course with politics. So,
okay.
Of course, Commissioner
Paul Farquharson. Oh, yes.
Yeah, and a great gentleman.
That's right.
And also, good night to my mortal boss. Can't leave him out. Former Prime Minister Hubert Alexander Ingram, God's leader number 1. And he is the unifier with his political gifting.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that everything what you are speaking to and all is now biblical jubilee from the Bible. So God blessings upon you and your family and your dear daughter. And make sure our MISTY will always keep that holy Bible and speak to God through Jesus Christ of Nazareth, enveloping you and your passengers in the Holy Spirit.
Thank you so much, Lady Johnson.
God bless you all now.
God bless you too, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's Lady Veronique Johnson. She blesses and graces the show on an ongoing basis. And she always have a good contribution to make. And I'm glad she brought up those other names of some of our great Bahamians that have passed. And there are many others that she didn't call the names of that were great Bahamians. And, may all of their souls continue to rest in peace.
Yes.
So we talk about Morgan's Bluff. Misty, I know, you sailed, you've been to Morgan's Bluff before?
Yeah.
And what you think about Morgan's Bluff becoming a cruise port?
I think it's definitely possible. I mean, you had the Dolphin or
the Titus and the Dolphin, right? And the Mini Lily and water badges that they had prior to that. So for decades they've been going in and out of there.
Yeah, we filled the Dolphin and the Titus several times in Morgan's Bluff when.
Oh, really?
Sail with marine tankers, yeah. Sometimes we'd catch them here at Iraqi when they were offloading.
Sometimes there.
And sometimes in Morgan's Bluff. It just depended on
their schedule.
Yeah,
right.
It just depended on the timing.
Okay, so you're familiar with Morgan's Bluff.
Yeah.
You can imagine what happens if we make Morgan's Bluff a cruise port stop. You got Red Bays, for example.
For Andres, for sure.
Well, that's what we want.
Yeah.
You know how many people would leave the capital and go back home because they have a job that they can create and start making some big money based on that.
Definitely. You have people who are Androsians, and you'll have, other people who are just looking for opportunities. I mean, look at Coco Key. I mean, you have a lot of people that go there and just for work, regardless of where they're from. But you would have people who would want to return home and, if they have a secure job and
Most definitely. And then we have Morgan's Bluff, which is just down the street. I mean, the people on the ship wouldn't know that you only went about 50 miles down the road.
Exactly.
Because when they leave that port that night and they out in the tongue of the ocean, moving around, going around Green Key and Blossom Channel area, well, of course, they can't go through Blossom Channel.
No.
But they could go close enough to look at it, but it'd be night anyway. And then just come back and wake their way to Drake's Hill. And here is another stop.
Yep.
Beautiful stop. This crab catching stop. We got Slavery Wall down in South Andres. We got Custard Ponds. We got a bunch of blue holes.
Yeah.
And we got mangroves all on the western side. A lot of bone fishing. So I mean, we could do a tour just showing them what our carbon sink, where we getting all our carbon credits from. And that's
definitely popular.
That's Drake's Hill
for bone fishing, for sure.
And we got places like Devil's Point, Cat Island, which is really basically on the ocean. The ocean touches Devil's Point. It's not very difficult to just put in a abutment, a jetty going out where two cruise ships could come in. Because I can tell you, if you see what was done in, I think it was Grand Turk, you just have a dock coming out.
Yeah, it's a pier. Yeah,
it's a pier. But that's all you need for two ships.
Yep.
We could do that to any one of our family islands. Or should I say, every single one of our family islands. So that the Bahamas itself can be a destination. Just like the Eastern Caribbean is a destination. And that would be a good day, eh? All the family islands could have a dock. All of the family islands could have their people return home and still don't have enough for employment.
Yeah, and it gives, repeat visitors, whether they're cruisers or people just, island hopping on planes. It gives a lot more options.
That's
See
right.
more of the Bahamas.
And we got other ports, of course, like Crooked Island has Landrail Point, which most vessels that go to Crooked Island would go to Landrail Point because of the deep water. You in deep water almost all the way until you get to the dock.
Right.
You wouldn't even have to do much dredging for cruise ship to get in there.
That's right.
Just put that pier out far enough, the ships are there. So, I mean, why would this not be going on? I mean, you're younger than me, so You could come and tell why. Okay, I understand. In my era, we were still growing. We didn't see the cruise ships are not as expansive as they are now. But with the vision we see now, we have 5 or is it 7? 7 private islands, but only 2. Well, Freeport and Nassau, that is controlled
Government control.
outside of private
islands,
cruise ships control. Shouldn't it be the other way around? In other words, if they get 7, we should have at least twice as much as them. I would think
we should have at least as much.
that's provided our government is looking at the situation. They're realizing the potential. Because if you ask me, I'm not convinced that they are. I'm not convinced that the government is looking at this country as a cruise ship hub, where a cruise ship could come and choose out of 14 island destinations which ones they're going to do this itinerary on, which ones they're going to do the next itinerary. And the way it's going now, cruise ships want to save fuel. Well, not save fuel, but they want to let out less carbon.
Yeah.
And the least carbon they let out, the least offset they got to make up for the carbon they let out. So they be saving money, not only for themselves, but they got to provide cheaper tickets for the guests.
Yes.
So it's simply a win-win if we was to develop this Bahamas the way those ports in the Eastern Caribbean are, because we're bigger than they are.
I don't know that we could say that they are not aware of how diversifying, the Bahamas in terms of a cruise ship hub. I can't say that they're not aware.
They're aware or they're intentionally not doing it.
I'd say they're just not prioritizing it.
They're not prioritizing it.
Now that we have this, multi-million, billion-dollar
carbon credit operation.
Facility downtown.
Not yet. I didn't know billion. The facility downtown is only about $300 million.
Now that we have established that, and hopefully, the revitalization of downtown would be shortly thereafter.
But we gave that away. We didn't.
We did.
We didn't fix that on our own. The government didn't foresee. Look, we'll fix this up and we gave that away and allowed other people to fix it, and now they're getting most of the returns from it.
I agree.
So would we allow them to do that to Morgan's Bluff? Would we allow them? Are they going to develop these other ports?
I would hope
and take away all the money.
I would hope that the government would want to take the lead, particularly in the Family Islands.
What's the difference? If they propose to the government, hey, we're going to develop, and I think they will. We want to develop some more of your ports. But I think let's do this heads of agreement, and the government may say, yeah, man, let's do it. This one work out good. We got to be bigger than that.
We do, and even if they partner, I would hope that it's not. I would hope that it's at least 50-50. We need to be more. We need to have more say, more power.
How about having somebody like you come back home and spearhead this operation? And let's talk about your experience. Because, we got a lot of Bahamians, they say this country probably experiencing a brain drain, because once the young persons get qualified in areas, they move out and they do very well, but that expertise has left the country. I don't see that in your case, don't get me wrong, because what you do, I'm sure we don't have the option here to do. Or you don't have the option here to do.
It's very limited, yeah. It's very limited.
So let's talk about what you do.
So after sailing...
how long did you sail? Well, we already had the show where you sail all over the world.
Yeah.
You've been through the Panama Canal a couple of times. You've been across the Atlantic a couple of times. You've been in the Pacific once or twice. You've been South America, around the Cape, around all. So you've been in the Black Sea where all this.
All the drama.
And you flew out from Ukraine, didn't you?
I did.
When you got off the ship, you flew out from Ukraine.
My first ship, yes.
Well, you joined the ship in Texas.
Yes, Port Arthur.
Where you are now.
Correct.
And
full circle.
When you finished that year or a couple months, around a year, let's say 13 months, you got off the ship in Ukraine.
Correct.
And they took you to what? Kiev?
Kiev.
Or you had to fly to Kiev?
I had to fly to Kiev. I had to fly
on a smaller plane
to Moscow. No, it was a big plane.
That flew from Odessa? Which part y'all was in Ukraine? Was it Odessa
It was Odessa.
or Mariupol? Odessa?
Mariupol, yeah. Well, I mean,
One of them.
I drove from there to the
To
main
there.
airport. And
To the
then-
main airport in that city.
Yeah.
And then you
from
caught a
there
plane
to Moscow.
to Kiev. Oh, you drove from the port to Kiev? That must have been a long drive.
Yeah, it was a good drive.
That's like
It
a
was
couple hours.
hours, yeah.
Oh, you were
It
a
was-
bus or you was in a Mercedes?
It was like a Sprinter. Yeah, it was like a airport shuttle.
Oh, okay,
I'm
okay.
sure they're used to that. But yeah,
Okay, yeah.
I flew from there to Moscow and then to Heathrow.
So you had to connect in Moscow.
Correct.
So you almost Russian. You've been to Moscow. And from there to what?
No,
London?
but I was in,
Heathrow?
Yeah, to Heathrow and
And then home.
Nassau.
You
Yeah,
caught a direct flight to Nassau then.
correct.
Okay.
British Airways.
Wonderful.
But I was in St. Petersburg for almost 30 days.
For a month?
Yeah.
And so you really a Russian. St. Petersburg, that's way up northwest.
Yep.
And well, if you was in that area, you was near a lot of other places.
Yep. Because we went to
Latvia.
Riga.
We've been to Latvia.
Yeah, we loaded there as well.
Wow. What other ports y'all went to in the Baltic, in that area? You didn't go to Iceland?
No, we didn't go to Iceland, but that's not in that area. But I mean, you have Sweden, you have
Sweden,
Finland, Norway.
Yeah.
Went through the Great Belt a couple times.
Okay. I was to
did-
pass through the English Channel. You had to go through there.
Oh yeah, you have to get through
busy
there.
area.
Very busy. Very
Okay.
busy.
And so you did those voyages, and after you got through with all that sailing,
Came ashore.
Mm-hmm.
I did well, I wouldn't say fully ashore. I sailed with Marine
you sailed
Bankers.
locally for a
Yeah,
while.
sailed
So you get to know some Bahamas ports.
Yes.
And which ones?
Which was
which ones you
excellent.
could remember? You ain't like Defense Force what is going all the
No,
ports.
no. We didn't go to all. We were on the milk run though. I sailed with.
What you call a milk run?
I sailed with Captain Linton Ritchie.
Did y'all used to drink plenty milk when y'all go on the run?
No.
What is milk run?
A milk run would be considered you just dropping out. So consider like a milkman who has his own route, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were working with Sun Oil and which has like the BPL contract.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we're just going all around the different
So y'all
islands.
were going to the
We were
BPL
fueling
hubs
all of the
to give
BPL
them
hubs.
fuel.
Yeah, for all of the generations.
That means a lot of ports.
Yeah.
So you
it
did get to see a lot of ports.
I got to see many ports in the
Uh-huh.
Bahamas.
You
which I'm
went?
grateful
Did you
for.
go north of Grand Bahama? That's Walker's Key and Grand Key and those areas.
We didn't go there.
Okay.
Some of the smaller boats would go to those islands, like the Ander and all that.
Right, because
They
we got to
got
watch our
commission
carbon
out.
credits run, didn't I? Because we got plenty of mangroves to the north of Grand Bahama.
Yes, I mean most.
And the hub of Abaco, plenty carbon credits there too.
Correct. We went there. We did Murphytown and that was the main hub there.
Okay, what about Eleuthera? Y'all did any place in Eleuthera at all?
Yeah, we did Eleuthera.
Okay, which ports? Governors?
Governors definitely.
We ain't got much ports in Eleuthera.
And Eleuthera, but we, you
probably do.
don't need a dock for all of those. So sometimes
Oh, you anchor off
we'd
sometimes and just
anchor
run the
off,
hose.
Run the hose. So that gives us a little bit of flexibility there too. So
Okay. Cat Island? No?
not on
Not
the
on your
ships
run.
not on
Right,
my run.
not Crooked Island either.
No, not Crooked
Auckland's.
Island either.
So y'all didn't do the
We
Forward
did-
Islands? Inagua?
We
You
did
Inagua?
We did Inagua.
Okay.
Right off of the airport there, just a little bit north.
Oh, y'all didn't do Morton? Y'all
We
just ran
didn't
by
do
the airport?
Martin. We
Oh,
did,
okay.
yeah, we just did the airport. But with the ship that I was on, we got to do Guantanamo Bay, which not
Oh, you
many
went to Cuba?
people. Yep.
Well,
did
that's not
Cuba.
really Cuba, but
Well, correct.
it's the U.S. part of Cuba.
Right.
Gitmo.
We did that every 6 weeks or so.
Okay, you went to Dumrep or Haiti or
No,
Jamaica?
we didn't do. I think the only external, as well as Provo. We did Provo about
Okay.
every month.
Okay, cool.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's
some
good,
ports.
good ports. Yeah, you did Morgan's Bluff and Andros, which is probably the only port there. You did Freeport? No.
Yeah, we would go there because sometimes we'd load out of Freeport.
Okay, Great Harbor Key.
We did Great Harbor Key,
Okay.
which is kind of crazy getting in and out of there.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
rocks. Yeah,
So y'all had to go
we
beyond
had
the
to go-
bridge?
yeah, we went in. all the
Oh,
way in,
wow.
right.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's right.
very tricky. A lot of shipping.
Yeah, so you did your local sailing and
Right.
and you obviously did your international sailing. And then you winded up ashore working.
Correct.
You work at BMC for a while.
Yep.
Doing port security stuff.
Yep.
And then what else did you do?
As
far as shoreside maritime affiliated work?
Not long after BMC, I joined a trading house, which buys and sells oil.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Or they trade in oil.
They were local.
So
luckily,
what is it that maritime about that? Was that a maritime affiliation? They buy and sell oil.
Yeah.
Anybody
because
could go in a trading house and buy and sell oil.
Right, but then you buy or sell delivered. So that's where the maritime aspect comes in.
So what did you really do in there? I mean, to make it maritime. You didn't trade.
I didn't trade. No.
So what did you really do?
I traded freight. So that's a little bit different. So we're not trading the oil. So it's not the commodity trading. You'd either call it chartering or you call it freight trading, which is just finding ships to do what you need them to do.
Okay, so
Right.
basically you was doing shipping operations sort of thing.
Correct.
And okay, so what that entail? You would be in your office, and what do you do?
And all of a sudden, one of the traders would say, "Okay, we just bought some fuel, and we need to get it from Colombia to Texas City.
Right.
So we need to find a ship that would fit the dock in the load port and fit the dock in the discharge port. We need to make sure that ship isn't blacklisted. We need to make sure that the ship is current with all of its documents. The crew on board, there's no
So
sanctions.
how do you go about
there's no-
doing that? How do you check these things?
Well,
They have to
there's
give you
vetting, there's certifications, there's all kind of things that you have to go through to make sure that, okay, this ship checks all the boxes, including being able to load the amount of cargo we need, being able to comply with the draft restrictions and all.
So you got to find a suitably fitting ship.
vessel, correct.
And when you do that, then where do you go from there? As far as your job would be concerned.
My job, finding out what the stow plans are, finding out what the previous cargoes were, whether or not the ship needs to do cleaning, chemical cleaning, because whatever was previously loaded needs to be compatible with what you're loading next.
Okay, you don't want no contamination on the cargo.
You don't need any contamination.
Yeah. So when you've done that, what happens? I mean,
Then
the
you
ship is now
send out
ready to
voyage
leave.
orders. You send out voyage orders. You tell the ship.
What you mean by send out voyage orders? So you
So
send
there's
it
a
out
broker.
personally,
So there's typically a broker involved, or a broker house, broker shop
for the charter?
for the charter. That's a buffer between a charterer and the ship owner.
Okay. So the broker does what?
The broker facilitates all of the, what you would want to call like a discovery, all of the documentation moving back and forth, finding out that everything's okay. That the
So you would be a broker in that case?
No.
So what
We
do
would
you do
hire
with the
a
broker?
So everything I need, I would send through the broker. The broker would pass on to the ship owner.
Oh, things like
And
what type of thing would you need
So,
for a charter?
so if I'm a charterer, I would need all of their documents to say that their company, good standing, everything.
Oh, you don't. Yeah. Okay. So the tabletop stuff.
Yeah.
You would make sure they check out after you done gone through all them check boxes.
We need to figure out if the ship could at least fit to the dock first. So all the obvious things you have to do first.
So you done that, and the ship is sailing.
Right.
Ship leaves. They leave. Well, first of all, they gotta go pick up the cargo, right?
Yep, they got to go and load it first.
So at what point do you start to deal directly with that ship? Before they collect the cargo, or when they leave?
Before we tell
So
them.
when they leave wherever they are, if they're in Spain, for example, they gotta get cargo from England,
And we've chartered the vessel.
and
yes,
they taking it from England to Canada.
Correct.
At
We
what
start
point do you
communicating.
get engaged with that vessel? From there in Spain?
Once the ship is fixed, yes.
Oh, so from Spain, then
Whatever
they gotta
your
go to
charter
pick up the
party
cargo in
date
England,
yeah,
and then you make sure they get that cargo.
right.
If
we
something
have to-
goes wrong, you got to be dealing with the
Oh,
problem.
yeah.
So
Any incident we handle in house, but before they even get there, you need to let them know what they're loading, how fast they're gonna load, what
now,
temperature
who are you talking to? Would it be you talking to somebody?
I would be talking to the broker. Sometimes we talk directly to the captain. It depends.
Oh yeah.
But usually how it works is you want the broker to be a middleman.
Right. So you want the broker to be relaying communications.
Correct.
So it's not often that you speak directly with the captain.
No, not often.
Okay,
Not for
so-
spot voyages, no.
So the broker is like an agent for the ship and
Yeah,
to
they're wearing two
to
hats.
link the two.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
wearing two hats.
All right. So you don't really be that involved when the ship is underway. Once the ship is fixed and starts to move.
No, once she's moving and we're getting daily logs of, the speed, and we're getting logs of what the cargo temperature is like and all of that, then we're fine.
Is that like 24 hours or?
Twice.
No, I mean, can they reach out to you on a 24-hour basis, or basically
yeah.
only during
It's a
working
24-hour
hours?
job. There are no holidays. There are no weekends.
So when you're supposed to sleep, suppose you're home, what happens?
You wake up.
You have a phone that the
Yes,
company provides.
The company provides you with a phone. I remember when I first got my when I first started working for Gunvor Clear Lake when they were here in Nassau. They did not have any U.S. Phones. My first phone, my first work phone was from Switzerland. So I would call sometimes and be like, "Are you calling me from
The
Switzerland?"
phone was from Switzerland?
The phone
was connected through Switzerland.
Correct.
But you had it here in the Bahamas?
Yes, it was a Swiss phone.
Why was that?
Roaming. That's just because that's where the head office was.
Oh. So all the operators and
Correct.
the stuff had phone based out of Switzerland.
Yes, but then they switched over to the U.S. phone. So I had a AT&T phone since then.
So what about BTC? They didn't ever want to switch over to BTC?
We had a local phone as well, but
okay.
we had both.
I don't
So-
want them dissing BTC.
No.
They were here
Well,
in the
I mean,
Bahamas.
and now you have a live, right? But when I first started, a live wasn't around yet. But yeah,
So that was an international company working out of the Bahamas.
correct.
And so now you're in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
You still with an international company, or you with an American company?
It's an American company. They are definitely expanding storage facilities and stuff like that worldwide, but it's primarily an American company.
And you're doing the same type of work.
Yes.
So if you want to come back home now, could you find a job at doing that type of thing? Would there be any jobs available doing that type of thing in the
There's
Bahamas?
one company here. I mean,
Okay.
Shell Barbados, they relocated to the Bahamas.
And they do that type of thing?
Maybe 3-4 years, maybe 3-4 years ago. Yeah, the exact same thing. I mean, they are not a trading house, but they definitely, buy and sell oil. They have a fleet of ships that they use for their internal purposes and for out chartering. So yeah, I mean,
Okay, they're in the business.
they are in the business.
Wonderful. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, that's Misty. She is engaged in shipping operations, lives in Texas, San Antonio to be exact. And she has quite a wealth of knowledge of sailing on the high seas on board international ships. And we have other Bahamian females now on cruise ships for the most part. Some of them, I'm sure, sailed on bulk carriers also. And they coming along, coming up the pipes. And some of them, I think most recently we had a cruise ship female officer that was I think she was the chief safety, or the safety or chief safety officer, something to that effect.
This is on Royal Caribbean. I read.
I think it's RCCL.
Yeah.
RCI. And she has been in their system now from Jump Street, and they're looking at her as somebody that would probably be a cruise ship captain someday.
I'm very proud of her.
It's so impressive. And then she's not the only one. I understand there's a handful of Bahamians, maybe not as far as she's gotten, but they're coming up the pipes.
That's amazing.
And they're doing big things.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this because we have a maritime cadet corps that feeded people into and then you can't forget the Campbell Shipping.
Oh, yeah.
Because they provided berth for most of the Bahamian seafarers that really got into the international market.
Yeah, my first.
To get started. You went with Campbell as well, didn't you?
That's correct. Yeah,
Right.
Dockendale at the time. but
Dockendale.
yeah.
So if it wasn't for those ships, I mean, would we have gotten the same type of opportunities to sail the way you guys did?
I mean, we'd never know, but they definitely played a huge role in facilitating that for many Bahamians.
Right.
So I'm very grateful to them.
Wonderful. Okay, we're down to half hour. Boy. When I was gone, Misty,
And we ain't talking about these carbon credits yet.
we better start talking about these carbon
I'm
credits.
waiting for my check.
You and many of us, because it got to come. Now, they have here the first grain methanol fuel box ship. They started their maiden voyage on July 17, marking what the industry is hailing as a new milestone in the efforts to decarbonize shipping. Now, what they want to do is by 2020, by 2050, the world wants any ship that sails internationally. It's hard for them to get into the domestic area, I suppose. But any ship that sails internationally, any amount of carbon that they emit out of their exhaust, whether it be generator, machine engine, air conditioner, whatever.
Auxiliaries, yeah.
Whatever they emit through that exhaust, and it goes into the environment, which means adding carbon,
Correct.
they got to offset that by either paying for the same volume, and they measure it in tons. So the same volume that is taken out of the environment. And what they're doing worldwide now is they got companies with these big extractor fans. And they're just sucking the air out of the environment, and they're trapping the carbon. And they sending that carbon to a facility where they could convert it either to liquid or solid, mainly solid. So they have stockings and stockings of carbon. Once I think they freeze it for it to be solid.
Wow.
And they heat it for it to be liquid. So they convert that carbon that is, what you call it when it's in the air. It's whatever the air, carbon. You convert the air into either solid or liquid. And when it's converted to solid, they would dig a hole in the earth, hundreds of feet down.
That is wild.
And make a wide area where they could actually store it in the ground. You know the carbon come from the ground.
Yes.
So because the carbon come from the trees, and not just the trees, the roots of the trees, and all those worms, it's a lot of stuff that's under there that can use carbon. But that carbon is going to be solidized or made solid. I don't know if that's the right word.
Solidified.
Or solidified. See, you all college graduates know these things. So that carbon is going to be solidified and stored
in the ground.
So it never comes back out again. But these companies are doing that to provide carbon credits to ships. And to provide carbon credits to car companies, to provide carbon credits to the main thing is all of these, like BPL, all these power. Because you got to remember now, what they're going to do with cars is they're gonna try and make all cars electric. Right? But what happens when you get an electric car? When you go to sleep, you can charge it.
You still got to plug in.
You got to plug it in.
Exactly.
So the utility company has to continue to provide electricity. And then the only way they can do that is by burning, whether it be fossil fuel or something. They got to burn something that sends carbon.
This is a quintessential question for an oil and gas company.
I'm using these big words. Let's show them use them kind of big words. You got to break that down.
This is the biggest question for
quintessential mean big.
Big.
Okay.
Question for all of the oil and gas companies right now.
Why?
Because it's like, if you're not going to be pulling up to a gas station, then that is going to put a dent in whatever profits, whatever fuel you were generating, refining. Now it's going to be a huge deficit, because you're not going to have, if they're looking at making all cars electric, what are you going to need gas stations for?
Well,
or you won't need as much, for sure. But
you're going to need charging stations.
The other side of that
and the charging stations got to be in areas where you're going to park.
Correct.
Yeah, so I could imagine the gas stations wouldn't have any more need to provide cars with any...
Not on a grand scale. Not the way it is now. But you'll still need to plug in. So you still have the power plants. You still have the power stations.
You can do that at home.
Granted, no, I'm not even talking about that.
Right. Oh, you're saying you still need those stations?
Yeah, you still need those.
You still need
so
those.
that is still there. But even those, they're trying to diversify how they generate power.
Yeah,
So
like they want to burn methanol now.
they want to burn methanol. They want to burn renewables. They want to. So it's all.
Yeah.
So
And plus, they're going to be augmented with solar.
that's always. That's always been there.
Yeah, but they haven't been doing it.
But they're definitely looking at diversifying the sources of power. So you're not looking at just the fossil fuels.
Well, yeah, they're looking at any which way they
To
can
reduce
provide
the carbon
without
footprint.
emitting carbon or a lot of carbon.
Correct.
So the whole world is going to change.
Oh yeah.
But then you get the Bahamas and countries like the Bahamas
Yes.
that have seagrasses and mangroves.
Yes. In abundance.
And what do those seagrasses and mangroves really do?
It's like a filter. It's filtering.
Well, actually, they breathe in carbon dioxide and they exhale oxygen.
Right. So it's literally like a filter. It's filtering the air.
You got trees
ridding-
that are doing the same thing. They are. That's why they call it a sink. It's absorbing carbon out of the air.
Right.
Because what's been happening is since man started to make machinery, almost every machinery that rotates, that got to burn, emits carbon.
Yeah, but it was really bad back in the day. We've gotten a lot better.
Well, no, I don't think we gotten a lot better
I-
because we
I
got
think-
far more machinery.
Well, we do. But we
So
have
because
far
of
more
the
people.
volume, because what's happening now is the earth is tensed with carbon.
Yes.
Because what carbon does is it stores heat.
Yeah.
So although you have that carbon up there, it's not just sitting there. It's actually taking in heat and storing the heat because it's blocking a particular layer around the entire earth.
Right.
So when the sun comes down and heats up the earth, and
It's
the heat tries
trapping-
to escape,
Yeah, it's trapping that
the
heat.
carbon is not allowing the heat to go beyond the carbon.
Correct.
So that heat continues to circulate while the earth keeps heating up from the sun, and it keeps getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And eventually, of course, because the earth is a circle and that heat stays within that circle, the heat is now like gravity.
Yeah.
It keeps you on the earth. It stays on the earth. So that heat is going to start to melt away the poles. And when that happens,
Water.
water is going to rise
For
and
the
rise
low-lying
and
areas,
continue to
it's a-
rise.
it's a
So
problem.
what the United Nations have realized is that if this continues by 2050,
We in trouble.
the heat index will go up to over 1.5 degrees centigrade. And they say if it goes beyond 1.5 degrees centigrade, it happens.
Oh my gosh.
The ocean starts to rise. So in order to avoid that from happening, and the time is ticking every day, what the United Nations and the IMO and with all the airplanes as well, right? I don't know what they could do with airplanes because airplane need jet fuel and all the rest of that stuff. I don't know if methanol and stuff will be able to move those planes fast enough to get the aerodynamics they need to live.
Yeah, that's the next thing.
But they have to find a way to offset it, right? And of course, that will impact the cost of a ticket.
Definitely.
And so we're looking at moving forward, making sure that the earth doesn't destroy itself. Or not destroy itself, make sure we don't destroy the earth.
Yeah.
Because there was a balance prior to the machinery being built. The earth has had a natural balance whereby the trees would take carbon out of the environment and put oxygen in the environment. And the humans, of course, need to take in the oxygen, well, the animals,
Right.
and exhale carbon dioxide,
yeah.
which we have far more trees, and so the balance was good. And what the trees did is when you really needed it to balance properly, the trees would store the carbon in their roots. And that is where man got coal from. You hear they had the coal mines and all of that?
Right.
That's the coal that is going through the tree into the ground. And then they make mines and then they go and get that coal. And what happens when they burn that coal?
Back in the air again.
That's carbon going back out. What happens when a tree dies?
It has
it
to release
releases
that
its carbon.
right?
So carbon is going back in the air. So really we have this big vicious cycle of carbon being put in the air. We're trying to get it out. And right now, if we don't do some things to really get it out, the earth as we know it would not be the same anymore.
Yeah.
So we got to move to our second break, and we'll come back and look at some more of these, what they're doing with these ships to assist in making the situation, which you call net zero. Mr. Producer, when you're ready, sir.
At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart. At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to Maritime Matters. Tonight we have all kind of discussions about what's going to happen with the Bahamas and its carbon credit sink. We're talking about what ships are doing in order to emit less carbon into the environment, and how are they going to offset for even the little that they do emit at the end of the day. We were talking about the immigration situation where almost 300 Haitian nationals were actually repatriated yesterday. And do we want any more repatriations? If we do some of the things we need to do, we probably wouldn't have to worry too much about repatriations. Do we take them from the U.S. Coast Guard when they find them in the Keysal area, which is nowhere near any Bahamian port? As a matter of fact, it's closer to Florida than anywhere else. Because they had a meter, they were going to Florida. Eh? Why we need to take them? Anyway, these things continue to happen, and we continue. Tonight, I am joined by a very distinguished maritime professional that is leading the pace for the young'uns, those that came generation after us. She happened to be my daughter. I don't know how she getting maritime, but that's where she's at. Ladies and gentlemen, I got Misty Bain with me tonight. And, we talking maritime generally. So, Misty, welcome back.
Thank you.
We talk about methanol fuel box ship. A box ship is a container ship, for those who don't know. So they tried on the 17th of July this one container ship that is going to sail from Europe to China, somewhere in Japan, somewhere. And they want to see how that goes. And if it goes all right, then, of course, they could have some more methanol engined ships as they build. And the environmentalists in the EU are saying that things are going too slow. They got to pick it up. And port of Tacoma. What is Tacoma? Tacoma is up there in Seattle, somewhere
Washington,
near Washington.
yeah. Washington.
Yeah, that's just south of Seattle. And that port is saying, we want to reduce the time frame. We don't want to do 2050 no more. We want to make sure by 2040 there's zero emission for any ship coming in our port. And I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle does the same thing, because all of them in one area.
That's the same. Yeah, same port area.
No, all them in the same state, eh? Washington.
Anacortes, yeah, all of them. Yeah.
So we could probably see a ricochet effect of this. And I'm kind of surprised that it's happening in the U.S., because I thought that Europe was like the ringleader in trying to get this net zero thing going, because the IMO is in London. And, Europe is a big shipping area when you talk about international shipping. The U.S. have a big domestic shipping and, the Jones Act ships and that type of thing.
But of the U.S. ports, the West Coast is definitely the leader in anything environmental.
Oh, they are?
Oh, yes. Huge.
Oh, so that's probably why this one is in Washington.
Yeah, and
why would the West Coast of the U.S. be more?
They're a little more liberal out there, right?
No, but I'm thinking, when you're thinking about the East Coast, they more engaged with Europe. The West Coast is more engaged with like China and
which
and
means
those areas.
more ships.
Yeah, but not more compliance, eh?
More carbon.
Yeah, it's more
right?
carbon.
So they're just conscious of it.
Okay.
So
they're taking more drastic steps.
The entire U.S. West Coast, right?
Right.
So you're talking from Port Everett and all of those up there by Washington, the Seattle area, which connects with British Columbia, right? All of Vancouver and all of that. So all the way down.
But Canada's normally on top of the game with compliance as well.
They are very much aligned.
Especially when it comes to environmental stuff.
Correct. They're very much aligned. And I wouldn't be surprised if Tacoma and all of them are really pretty much in tandem with Vancouver and British Columbia. Correct.
Yeah, right.
And same all the way down through to LA Long Beach.
Okay.
So those are some of the biggest ports in the United States, period, because they have all of those container ships coming over from China to the U.S. So they see more carbon than the East Coast, I would think, with all of those huge container ships and whatnot.
And then we get
and then you have a lot of refineries on the West Coast as well.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Even Marathon does.
Now, refineries account for a lot of the carbon going up,
which
they
is why
have to be making, but most of them are already dealing with natural gas.
Yes.
I suppose. But when is the Bahamas going to move from fossil fuel?
I hope soon, because it could have a very positive trickle-down effect. You wouldn't be paying mortgage payments for light bills.
Yeah, but if that happened now, you got some entities would set to lose a lot of money.
That's unfortunate, but I mean, the greater good, right? That's what you should be working towards.
Okay, so we'll continue. Ladies and gentlemen, the number to call here if you want in on this discussion, 326-8255. That's 326-8255. Some of y'all know Misty. Call and say hello. Hey, Misty, what you saying, girl? I hear him out. I hear you cackling. Or call me and say hello. You ain't got to know nothing but this stuff. But those who know, please, feel free to give us a call and come in on this discussion. We talking about all kind of things, primarily. And let me just say good night to my good Annie Mae. Annie Mae, you see how far I go and I remember to tell you good night. Anyway, Annie Mae, so I didn't see you on the weekend. I knew you was at Clyde's funeral. I saw Lauren. I really, on my next trip up, I got to come hail you. It's been a little while since I came to see you, although we talk every day. Misty, you didn't meet Annie Mae yet. You know Annie Mae?
Of course. Do you know me?
Yeah. Oh, you know Annie Mae, that's right. Yeah, I know y'all young. Y'all just don't know.
Good night, Annie Mae.
You know Annie Mae done over 90 now.
Yes, a
and
big
taking
birthday.
along.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to my good Annie Mae, let me just say hello. Before we delve deep into, we was talking about this carbon.
I just want to say one more thing.
I got a call on the line. In fact, we get two callers on the line. Which one first? Number one. Oh, number one is gone. That one is gone. Caller, welcome to Maritime Matters. Hello. Number three. Caller, you live on Maritime Matters. Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
Hey, top shape, my friend. What's happening, man?
All right. Hey, a beautiful young lady speaking out there. Like, she's been around the world and she's got like water in her shoes right now.
Yeah, she have way more experience than I would have, but I think I'm a little smarter than her because I bring her here.
It seems as though she's giving you a good push for the money.
Yeah, she's pretty sharp. So yeah, she's giving me a good push. So what you saying tonight, man? What you could do with this money? What will you be getting from these carbon credits?
My carbon credit?
Yes, sir.
me, you, and Misty, we can buy a cruise ship.
Sound good to me.
Boy, I ain't sure I want a cruise ship. That's plenty work. I'd rather get a cargo ship.
At least some type of transportation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, tourism based and whatnot, because that's what the money coming in from through that avenue.
Yeah, but who own all the land up north of where you is in 8 Mile Rock area and thing? Man, you know, that's plenty seagrass and mangroves and stuff in that area. Who could be making all that money? That's the government on it.
Churchill and Jones. Well, I think, you know, when this thing was going around, Christy and them did all the Bahama Islands and stuff like that. And it's to a point now where I think, you know, we could take it back from them through the law.
Yeah, but I think the government owns everything up to the high water mark, 50 feet beyond the high water mark, owned by the state, by the country anyway. So they still would. Most of the mangroves are, you know, they're not within land. They I don't think me or you could own a mangrove because it's not below the high water mark.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's according to the way we plan them. Even if you plan it, then they don't belong to you when you plan
Well,
it.
if you can't plant them on land, they gotta be in the sea.
No.
So wherever you get mangrove, you know what mangrove is doing. They suck in 35 times faster than the trees in the rainforest.
Listen, you could plant a mango anywhere, bro.
You could plant a mangrove on land, and that will continue to live without the salt water.
It go with salt water and fresh water.
Well, I don't know if the freshwater ones suck all that carbon out there like the seawater ones. But I mean it's interesting, and
Yes.
and we'll have to get some experts to come and let us know that, because I know that on land you have mangroves around those. I know in South Andres where I grew up, where I used to be
Around the Blue
when I
Wall?
was young. Not well we call it the custard ponds and stuff.
Yes, mangoes go anywhere where swampy areas where you could get water. You know what I mean? That's what makes it so unique.
So we need to put some mangroves in place and get some scientists to tell us how much our carbon credits could be, eh?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anything right now.
Okay, well, we're 5 minutes into, I think I got another call on the line. So my brother, you continue to take care. When I come up that way, you know we got to link up and clock some glass or two and see how we can do this thing.
Yes, sir. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your call, my brother.
Okay.
Roger. Caller, you on Maritime Matters. Hello.
Good night.
Good night to you, sir.
Mr. Glenwood Brain.
Hey, Larry, what's happening, my friend?
Misty Brain.
Good night, Larry. How are you? Long time no hair.
Oh, right here. I said, why is it?
You're talking low, man. What happened to you? Okay, we need more voice, man. We can put you back in the police force, eh?
I'm just listening to the show. You know, I don't listen to the show, you know.
I know. You always checking stock. What's happening, man? But you listen to this carbon credits. What you could do with all the money we can give you, or they can give us?
That's what you decided to do.
I know you're tired of money coming your way anyway, but maybe.
That thing when you talk about Andros, though, that's the thing that I really interested
Morgan's Bluff or Drigshill.
Yeah, Morgan's Bluff, because you know my situation in Coastal Down.
That's right. But yeah, man, but there's no reason, Larry, why we shouldn't already have a cruise port in Morgan's Bluff. Ever since that area was stopped, was no longer required to barge water, right? Because, you know, we got to the Arrow and they don't need that no more. They should have made that a cruise port destination.
Yeah.
So what are you guys doing about that, since you from North Andres?
Here's the thing what we need. We need to figure out the financing first. You know, when you go to these...
You don't need to figure out no financing. That port they build, they develop in Nassau, or they change that. Where you think that $300 million came? They paying people money. That ain't no foreign money, you know. They raised that funds right here in this country.
Yeah.
But Bahamians got plenty of money. Once we know we can get some good returns, now see, you gotta get the right set of people to run it. You know, we need, just like how they did the airport. You bring in a company to manage it that has experience in managing this type of thing. For example, Global Port Holdings. We could have invited them to come and manage, but not own.
Right.
Right?
That's the
And that's the difference between doing, that's the kind of business we need to be doing with these family islands. We don't want nobody own them.
No.
We bringing in your expertise to manage.
Yeah, we had enough of that owning.
Yeah.
So,
All right, Larry. Well, we can push for it. We got to keep pushing for it. But I think it can happen. And if I have my way or I had any influence, I can push for it to happen. Make sure it happens.
yeah, man, I'll talk with you about it, though.
Okay, my brother. Yeah, well, thank you for calling, man. We got 2 minutes left on the show, so. Oh, I think we lost Larry. Larry, thanks for the call, my brother. And we will keep in touch and we will keep discussing. And we have to find a way to bring it to light to those in government that can do something about it and start to plan. At least we want to see a plan. Let's have a plan to make Morgan's Bluff a port of call for cruise ships. Without a plan, you can't get nowhere. I don't even know if they get no plan. I don't think, nothing that I have heard about anyway. So we now need to push for the government to create a plan to convert Morgan's Bluff to cruise ship pier or cruise ships pier, at least 2 cruise ships.
Yeah.
So, Misty, our time is out.
I know.
So
Time
any
flies.
shout out to give? Anybody you want to say hello to other than Amber?
I mean, after definitely Amber. Hi, Amber. Definitely the Hepburn clan. We all showed up in full force for
Clyde, yeah.
Uncle Clyde. Such a sad occasion, but definitely a show of strength from the Hepburn clan. So shout out to them, and of course everyone, the Swan Gibson side. Good night to everyone, and looking forward to meeting up with you guys too.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much for gracing our show with your expertise and experience. And every
Always
time you're
a
in town, we
pleasure.
got to try to sneak you in here.
Always a
I didn't
pleasure.
give you any lead time to review what we're going to be discussing.
In true Maritime Matters
In
form.
true maritime matters. But we were all engaged in that,
Yeah,
that funeral,
it was
and
very-
we didn't have a chance to really
That's correct.
prepare properly in advance. But next time I know you're going to be coming, I'm going to send you something well in advance that we will be discussing in detail.
Sounds good.
And so, with that, I thank you. I thank you, audience out there, for listening to Maritime Matters. And I continue to encourage you to call in and make your contributions. I hear my boy Herb for a while. I guess he dissing me or somebody traveling. I don't know, but that's my dog. Nobody can change that. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, as always, I say Maritime Matters out.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes.